Hi everyone, Jeremy here, back again with another review of two Minimates figures. This is Wolverine and Viewtiful Joe from the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Fate of Two Worlds Minimates set. Once again, I got these for $4 roughly from ToysRUs.com, which probably means these won't be around for that much longer, at least not from Toys R Us. And I'm going to take a look at each of these individually, give them the pros, give them the cons, and then wrapping it all up at the end. First, let's take a look at Viewtiful Joe. Viewtiful Joe got his start back in 2003 with his own video game that came out for the GameCube that was also called Viewtiful Joe. And about a year later, it was ported to the PlayStation 2. And one of the reasons why Viewtiful Joe stands out today and why we still really remember him today is because at the time, the art style that Capcom used for the game was like a comic book come to life. And it was so interesting at the time and so refreshing that Joe just sort of became embedded in our collective conscience as a character that we all know and we all seem to like. So as far as his Minimates figure is concerned, there are some things that I like about Joe and there are things that I do not like about Joe. And one of the main things I don't like about this figure is indicated on the top left of his helmet. So take a look at that. It looks like someone took their fingernail and just scraped the paint right off the top of his helmet. And it's really a shame because that is such an important part of Viewtiful Joe's character. If you took off his helmet, then he wouldn't be nearly as recognizable as he is with his helmet. And I think that Diamond Select should have paid more attention to that mold. It's not just the paint that's scraped off from the top of his helmet. You can also see like the little antenna parts, the black parts on top of the helmet. The paint there looks a little jaggy to me. The paint on the helmet looks a little bumpy, looks a little uneven. The chest is fine. The chest on these Minimates always seem to be good. But that helmet is just a really big shame. And also his legs down there, you can see that there's chipped paint on his left leg, like in two spots. And as you go down to his feet, the feet on Minimates never seem to be all that good, at least not on any of the ones that I seem to have. But beyond that, it's fine, but it's just such an obvious disfigurement to have Joe's helmet as messed up as it is. Joe's also sort of unique because he doesn't have any holes in his feet, which means you can't put him on any sort of traditional stand, like one of those plastic circular stands, or even if you got like some Lego bricks lying around, you can't directly stud him in there. So instead, they decided to include a very unique stand for Joe. This is what that stand looks like. It's a translucent piece, and the way that it works is that you take off Joe's torso, and then this basically, the top part goes on top of Joe's his waist, and then you put his torso back on, and then this stand is supposed to hold him up. However, I can't for the life of me get Joe to stand up with this stand. The weight is not balanced evenly, so Joe really is tumbling off in one direction. So I had to come up with something to counteract the balance that Joe was putting on this stand, and this is what I came up with. This is the concoction that I came up with. I basically took some Lego bricks that I just had laying around, and I just made a crude stand for it because Joe kept falling down on this stand. So really I just had to make something to put enough weight on the opposite end of it in order to keep Joe upright. It is not a perfect solution, but it was the best that I could do with pieces that I had. I wish I didn't have to resort to this. I don't know if that's a fault of the stand. I don't know if it's a little bit warped, because I do have one warped clear circular base plate that you can put these Minimate figures on. So maybe the same thing happened with this stand. I had to just come up with my own solution to make it work. So now let's take a look at Wolverine. And here's Wolverine, and good old Wolvie. Everyone loves Wolverine. No matter if he's being a somewhat of an anti-hero or not. He's just a great personality, and as far as his Minimate figure goes, he's sort of just like Viewtiful Joe. Now, I like that they gave him lots of hair on his arms, because Wolverine is a hairy dude. So I like the fact that you got that printing on his arms. But the other thing is, I don't really... His mask is better than Viewtiful Joe. There isn't like some very obvious paint chips in there, but you can tell that the mold of it is not particularly well done. The paint seems uneven. It also seems a bit lumpy. It seems like Minimates just really, or Diamond Select, when they create their Minimates, they really excel in their face printing and their torso printing. But if you get into like head molds or mask molds that you can take off, and when it comes to legs and feet, they just seem to stop caring. To give you an idea of how much better Wolverine's face is without the mask, let's take a look at that. With the mask off, you know, it looks great. They do a really good job with his printing without the helmet on, without his mask on. But the mask itself, you know, it just does not look all that great. It seems to be very hit or miss with Minimates. Sometimes you get good ones, sometimes you get bad ones. But I guess that's just the way it is. Now, as for the rest of him, one of his hands keeps falling off. It's not as bad as the Master Chief Halo figure that I have, but it is something that I had to deal with. It was coming off. And as you can see, one of his claws, well, the claws aren't consistent really. You see how they're sort of spread apart right there on his right hand, but then when you go over to his left claws, they're really just together. They're not spread apart at all. So yeah, that's not a big deal, but you know, I just have to point out every little thing that's not great. So Wolverine is okay, but it really just seems like all the attention and care was put into the face, the arms, and the chest. The rest of it is just mediocre. It's a little bit sad that two of the Minimate figures I was most excited about ended up being two of the ones I was most disappointed in. Such great characters that unfortunately had injustices done to them, with poor Joe and his very weirdly painted helmet and chipped legs, and Wolverine with his great face printing, his great torso printing, but somewhat awkward claws, and also not that great of a mold for his mask. You know, like I said earlier, I think it's very hit and miss with some of these Minimate figures, and sometimes you get ones that are quite good, like Cortana or Chris Redfield, and then there are other ones that are not so great. So you really just have to take a chance on these. But when these are full price and they're costing between $7 and $10 for a pack of 2, I really wish you didn't have to make those kind of guesses. To me, those prices are a little bit on the high side for just 2 small figures. But if they're going to charge that much, I would like to see that quality, the consistency of the quality, more consistent than I have been seeing. So that's my review on these two Minimates, and I've got one more coming, and that's with Guile and Raven, also from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Fate of Two Worlds. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.